Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Nebula versus Court, where you guys can give us money to talk about a matchup for a long time. It's a pretty good deal. Today, we have a pretty uh, unique, a very niche matchup, in my opinion, because I know nothing about these two, and I'm very excited to learn. Today's matchup is Lain versus Donnie Darko. Yeah.
Yes, Donnie
Yes.
Darko.
All right. This
Also, big props. This thumbnail looks fucking awesome. I'm just gonna say that. Who made that? Trop.
drop
Trop. Yeah.
drop cooked on the
That's way
thumbnail.
better. That's way better than the one I made as like the here's the it's coming, guys. I swear. Remember when we did this last month?
Good
It's
times.
crazy.
Good man. It's weird how much can happen in a month. How much
Yeah,
can
it's
go right
also
and how much can go wrong.
yeah, like
Yeah.
time travel and whatnot. Crazy.
I would like
Yeah.
to ask, like,
Everything's
what are
fucking time
these
travel.
two from? Are they like, what? Like, I don't even really know what like type of media these two are from. Are they like movies, video games? What's going on here?
For Donnie Darko, it was a very it's a cult classic film called Donnie Darko, and it didn't do too well, but it did get a sequel in 2009 that everyone universally agreed was terrible. I still watched it for the cast though.
We
Was
appreciate
it
your
I would.
sacrifice.
Ironically, I enjoyed it more than the first film because after the first film, I had to do a deep dive to understand the first film, so I had that context for the second film and had an easier time following everything.
Well, that's good. And what's Lane from?
Lain is from a lot of things. Her first real appearance was in a PlayStation 1 Japanese only video game that I found out literally this morning. Fans have translated fully into English, which I knew that before this cast. Then what people most know it for is the anime that came out, I think, in either the late 90s, early 2000s, um, which was like super weird but super interesting. Um, and then that's really kind of it for main media. It also got a one-shot manga. It's got some guidebooks. I think it has a novel on the way, but it's not out yet. I
Okay.
think that's what I was told. Um, but I'm very excited because I grew up with Lane. It was one of the shows I watched with my mother. Which watching back for this cast, I was like, my mother should not have watched this with me. But we'll get into that. We'll get into that when we get into the characters themselves when we describe them.
Right. Yeah. It's nice to have the old crew of four back together again. But
Oh yeah.
do we want to go straight to character introduction? Do we kind of want to like? I feel like there's a lot of people that might not necessarily know these two characters, so we kind of want to explain like the basic premise of what the matchup like is.
If you like to understand the matchup, you should probably understand the characters first.
I guess that's fair. All right. So do we
I'm
want to just?
gonna let Zora goes first because I've seen Donnie Darko and I know a lot about Lane and I think Lane is by far the more complicated to explain. So I'd rather start with him.
All right. Zorro, tell us about
Oh
Donnie
god.
Darko.
Gosh, if Lane is more complicated than Donnie Darko, then we are in for a cast. All right. So Donnie Darko. In the world of Donnie Darko, there are these things called the primary universe and a tangential universe. And I promise this is relevant because when a tangential universe is created, usually by a something called an artifact being launched into somewhere, it creates basically a parallel universe that, if not corrected, will cause it to basically cease to exist within 30 days and that could risk fleeting over and destroying the Prime universe as well. The reason why this is important is because when a tangential universe is created, a thing known as the living receiver is randomly selected from this tangential universe, and their job is basically to manipulate events in the timeline so that the artifact is returned to the primary universe, thus removing the tangential universe and avoiding the primary universe from being destroyed. And as you might imagine, Sir Darnie Darko, yes, Donnie Darko is not a made up name, that's his actual legal name, is one of these living receivers, but he does not realize it yet. and he was a troubled young lad. Kind of been unmedicated for his life, had mental health troubles. A lot of people just think he is a troubled child, which he is until this thing happened, and then he ended up being a troubled child with supernatural powers. And throughout his time as a living receiver, he is struggling to understand the thoughts in his head, being tormented by a mysterious figure named Frank, who tells him what to do, and he is forced to compel him. But slowly, as he comes to understand his role as the living transceiver and comes familiar with the powers gifted to him in order to help save the universe from basically imploding on itself, he begins to just realize that the only way to basically fix it is to just embrace his role, and thus he goes on to. And again, I'm not going to go into all the powers, I'll get into it later, but in the end, Donnie realizes his destiny, returns the artifact to the primary universe, thus ending up incidentally killing himself at the cost of saving all of the loved ones he's grown to love during the course of the movie. And then a really bad movie sequel came out later and didn't really include Donnie because he was dead, but still gave more stuff on living receivers that would theoretically also apply to him.
And this
Question,
is the
Sherm, you look
less,
perplexed.
and this is
So
the less complex character.
I was trying to take notes, but I couldn't take notes fast enough. So I'm just trying to comprehend the TLDR. Is that there's tangential universes and real universes, and they will naturally collide if a cosmically ordained living receiver doesn't use their supernatural powers to prevent the universes from colliding?
Pretty much. A tangential universe, you can pretty much call it as like, if the main timeline is like a tree, a tangential universe is like a branch that's like has a disease on it, and they have to basically cut the branch off to prevent it from destroying the primary universe.
Okay. I just don't want to backtrack. What did you say was the artifact that's relevant?
An artifact, it's never overtly stated what the artifact is. It could be any object, but it is an object, usually metal, that gets sent out of the main timeline into the tangential timeline that causes, if not returned, will cause the end of the world.
Okay. And Lain is more complicated than this.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So
All right.
I actually thought a long time about how to explain this in the simplest terms. So I hope I make this easy. This is my work day. I'm working all day, and the whole time I'm thinking, how am I going to explain this in a way that makes sense? All right. So you know the internet, your phones, and stuff like that. Well, all of these things are concepts, like radio wave stuff like that, are concepts that have always existed, and something manipulated our world into making them exist, into connecting to the internet. In Lain, this is called the wired. The wired is kind of like everything, right? And you can connect to the wired via your phone, like the internet, essentially. It was like Lane predicts a lot of the internet before the internet really got like big, and it's crazy watching the anime again and being like, "Oh wow, that was correct, and that was correct, and that was correct." But they in the show they describe it as a concept that always existed, in that some kind of force made people create things like computers and phones to link up to it. And the goal was to link everybody together, right? There was someone on the Discord server, and whenever he posted the image, if you ever see the thumbnail on the Discord, and it's like "we are all one" or something like that, or "we are all connected," that's what that's referring to. Because legitimately, like technically, we're connected right now. We're talking over the internet, right? Lain, there are. You know what? I'm going to use my first image to explain this, all right? Because I think it's funny. Can you bring up the Lain image where it has the Mario 64 castle?
Yes.
So every lane is personalized. Lane is not any one person. What we experience in the game is a different lane than the one we experience from the anime. But they are both Lane. They both existed, just not on the same kind of like time, right? And Lane is the Wired. Um, I don't know why saying that reminds me of when my brother was like, Sora is Kingdom Hearts, but that's the first thing that popped into my head right now. Lane is the Wired, and she was like just information, just like scattered everywhere until she was given form. This guy in the bottom left says that he calls himself God. If you see that big ass face, and he says that he gave her form, but like we find out later that that's not true. He's not the one that did it. But we do know that she is a being that was not human, but somehow got a body. And with that, this lane was created. Um, that like she was told that she's part of this family and that she's going to this school and stuff like that. Like she had a life fabricated for her to exist. And then all of a sudden, people are saying like, "Oh wow, this Lane girl, she was really crazy at this party last night, whatever." Um, and it wasn't her. But we find out that because of what Lane is in the Wired, she is a bunch of to every person there is a different Lane. If you look on the cover art of the Lane DVD box set, that is not the same Lane from the show. That is a different specific Lane that is clarified. She is this omnipresent being that just exists. Her story is very complicated, but a lot of it is just her coming to terms with what she is, and like there's a lot of themes of what it means to be alive and all kind of that stuff, which is kind of and also a theme in Donnie Darko. That's kind of the connective tissue, especially the ending of both series, which I don't know if we want to talk about, but we could get into if you really wanted to. But Lane's story just revolves around her understanding who she is and what she is, right? So she doesn't know anything about herself. She doesn't know why there's other lanes, why other people speak of her as if she's different, whatever, why other people see her as different things. And the whole story is based around her like coming to the understanding with herself and what she is to everyone else.
Okay.
It's complicated. I tried to think of a way to explain this simply, but it's still a complicated concept to understand.
I think a relevant clarifying question is, does this fight use one lane or all lanes?
Yes.
That's not
So
an answer.
all lanes are Lane.
Yes.
They are all her. It doesn't matter what timeline they come from, what events they experienced. It is all Lane. Um, but she can exist as multiple things at once because she's just omnipresent. And when she learns how to kind of like at the end of the series what she is and how to control like what her powers are, which we can get into in the power section, um, she kind of like just becomes this being, this one being that can show up at any time, place, whatever, or just disappear from reality entirely. But if you were to take into account this, you would have to take into account every lane because they are all her
Okay.
and they can all interact. They can all become one and stuff like that.
Do all the lanes share like the same memories and knowledge? Like, will one
It
lane
is
know what another lane knows?
it is slightly implied that so the end of the original this is from 1998. I don't care about spoiling. The original series ends with Lane essentially deleting herself, and there's another Lane which is speaking to her. Um, But the context of it is that this Lain that's like relaying all these harsh truths are just things that this other Lain was blacking out, and that's kind of how like the scene ends, was with that realization, right? Like she's saying things that Lain should not know, but it's kind of, they're kind of implying that this Lain does know all that stuff. And we'll get into the powers category. There's really nothing she shouldn't know, no matter when or what happens. So I would imagine that even if you were to say that they didn't share like a memory, they would still have access to the same information.
Okay.
Interesting.
And I'm assuming in the beginning, when you drop the fact that Lane is the Wire, that'll be something we'll get into later.
Yes, I was
Okay.
actually debating against myself to this person, and I'm wondering what kind of arguments we'll have about this fact. With the person that was helping me translate, is what I mean. Not with Lain herself, that'd be crazy.
Yeah, but this is
Yeah.
already confusing enough. We don't got to add in you having your own debates with your own inner self here.
This is already hard enough to
Technically,
follow.
me just telling you about Lain and you three not knowing who that was just created 3 more Lain. I'm just saying.
Oh no.
Is
Okay,
Lane's
sure.
a
Just
mimetic
that mean that-
virus?
Wait. How many people are watching?
Every Lain is
How many people are watching the stream? Because like
Uh,
everyone watching it also just created a new lane if they weren't already familiar with the character.
14.
that's 10. The amount of lanes doesn't matter, if I'm being honest. It does nothing in the debate, so don't worry.
Okay, good.
All right then.
All right.
I think
where do we want to start?
that is a phenomenal question. I think that would be more up to you to decide.
I well, since we just got done with some lane stuff, I can explain some of Donnie's general abilities.
Can I just say, when I was saving this for this, when we got into the debate, there's pictures of her on this wall right here of Donnie Darko. You probably can't see it, because it's Stephanie's favorite movie. And I've
Oh.
never seen the sequel because she says the sequel is ass and don't watch it. And when I told her about this debate, because she watched Lain with me when I was like watching it for this debate, she was like, "So they're gonna make this girl fight the Avatar?" And I was like, "That's so fucking funny." Just because of Donnie Darko's kit having control of all the elements, I was like, "That's fucking hilarious."
All
Yeah,
right.
Donnie Darko's an Avatar, if you didn't know.
Good.
Oh, okay.
Good to know.
I
Good to know. I'll add
I
that to the
didn't know.
notes.
Well, technically, as far as the movies are concerned, he only has control over 2 main elements if you exclude time, which I'm saving for later because I don't want to be bothered with that right now. But yeah, so I don't have a lot of screenshots just because Donnie does not have any direct showings of these feats. We only ever see like the aftermath of things, and then we have to have it basically explained what happened. But a lot of his abilities are cited within a book that exists within the movies called The Philosophy of Time Travel, which sounds science fiction but actually goes into depth about what the living receiver is, the things about the primary and tangential universe that I explained at the beginning of the cast, and gives a lot of insight on Donnie Darko's abilities and the plot of the movie. A lot of the scenes with this was cut out of the base film, and I had to look up the director's cut to find this information, which, why would you cut that out of the base film when it's essential to understand the film? But that's besides the fact. So, as the living receiver, living receivers are known to have base abilities of being generally stronger than a normal human. This comes in the form of increased strength and durability and whatnot. They are also known to be greatly, they are also shown to be very intelligent, which is never really directly stated in the movie. This is just off one of the pages. But so, yeah, just increased strength, increased intelligence, and then you get into the more supernatural abilities. He has control over 2 main elements, the ability to generate fire and the ability to generate water. And with this water, he's able to flood an entire school. with it, even though it's implied that he broke a copper pipe to make it flood. It's actually because he also created a lot more water to flood the school. And in the sequel, while he did not burn down this building, another living receiver with this ability burnt down a church made of out of brick and iron. So it's a lot stronger than a normal fire because it was able to burn brick down, which would be, at the very least, a flame of 2,900 degrees Fahrenheit.
You say that number
Outside
again
of the-
for me for my notes?
2,900 degrees Fahrenheit.
It's pretty hot.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Thank you.
damn it. All right, so outside of pyrokinesis, just other things with the increased strength, he was able to jam an axe into a solid bronze statue. He is also able to have telekinesis. The heaviest thing we've seen living receivers move with telekinesis would be a giant jet engine. And that jet engine, like basically a jet engine from a plane. He's able to just rip it off and then just throw it through a time portal. And he also has a nifty ability known as precognition, which he is able to kind of like see the natural living path of how people will walk around and interact with things. It kind of comes off as like a watery stream that stems out that kind of predicts their movements. And he's not only able to just see his own path of life, but he's also able to see the path of lives from other people. So he kind of knows, well, it doesn't show exact actions, like if you walk up to a fridge, it won't show grabbing a beer, but he can at very least know the general area and general movements of where someone will be at any given time, as long as he concentrates on them.
If he tries to see the natural living path of someone like Lain, who seems to have crazy infinite life, will that like give him like a headache or something? Like that feels like that's a lot to try to look at.
I think that'll give anyone a headache.
Yeah, well, we don't really see, we sometimes see multiple paths, but like usually it's just he focuses on one person and then he sees that one. So it's less of a, oh, I see all the paths, and just, if I wanted to, I can focus on, like, say, my dad, and when I look at my dad, then I see his life path, or I look at me, and then my natural life path starts to form. So it would be whichever lane he is near and focuses on, he would be able to see that lane's natural path. So unless they're multiple lanes can just be summoned and fight him like tag team Naruto clone style, I don't know if it really matters if he can see, I don't know. Plime, would there be a scenario where Donnie Darko fights two lanes at the same time?
With the way Lain, I'm gonna say in quote fights, there is a possibility multiple would show up to talk to him. I don't think it's a possibility multiple would show up and start like trying to box. You know what I mean?
Yeah, all right, I see. So yeah,
Lanes love to talk.
Is seeing the natural living path like a combat applicable hacks? Like, is it like a Jedi where you can see the possible path that would lead you to victory, or is it kind of just like immutable fate that you can't do anything to change?
Real quick, this is a little late. Somebody donated 20 said, when will beat Ganon be on Nebula Theater? I hope eventually, because I think all of us want a Ganon matchup.
Someone donated.
That came from Ganon himself, by the way.
Ganon himself.
Yeah.
Wait, hang on.
Don't worry, Ganondorf. We're warning.
Ganondorf Dragmeyer
Yeah,
donated $20.
yeah, Ganondorf himself asked. I don't know. That's up to you. We'll send a letter out to you.
We'll have our people talk to your people.
Yeah, we'll have
and see.
We'll have like who do we need to talk to get this to work? Like we'll have a back and forth about it later.
Yeah. But yeah, anyways, previous question. All right, combat applications of scene. We don't really see him get into a fight. The life path is just more or less him seeing the natural fate of like things that will happen and him coming to realize his own path of what he needs to do.
I've got a question to kind of put this into context. Is this something that he can like turn off, or is it kind of like Neo seeing the code in the Matrix where he's like always seeing it?
Like it kind of just he can focus on it to make it appear, but he doesn't have to always look at them. So he can kind of turn it on and off. It's not like a thing he's forced to always see.
Your boy Kudo just said that connection between Lain and Digimon, the English voice of Lain herself, plays Jerry in Digimon Tamers. I'm gonna add on to that the director and lead writer for Digimon Tamers was the writer for Lain as well.
That explains a lot. Anyway, okay. I'm sorry, I kind of lost track. What was the question?
I was just wondering if this was like a passive thing.
Oh yeah. He can passively observe it, but he has to focus on it. But he can kind of turn it on and off. And to answer Sherm's previous questions of like, can he use this to kind of like predict movements? Like, he knows where someone will walk. He doesn't exactly know how they will move when they get to that place. And he can't really do it to like the extent of like, he can't really move outside his fated actions. In the second film, we see someone else who kind of gets access to the living transceiver thing, and they try to like cut off their living path, and it doesn't work. And the person explaining the powers to them is like, you can't really do that. If you want to be a living receiver, you kind of have to follow it. It won't let you do what you want.
So is this power like relevant? Like, will this help him at all in this conflict?
Yes, it helps in the sense that, let's say, I'm going to assume just for the purpose of this debate to try to make this work, given how both of them are kind of like existing within certain times, that I'm assuming that for the context of this debate, in order for Donnie to succeed in his destiny, he has to defeat Lain. So, with that context, this would be a useful ability for Donnie, because then his own natural life path, being the living transceiver, will show him and direct him towards where he needs to be in order to defeat Lain and succeed in his destined purpose.
I'm a little I'm trying to retain all this knowledge, but I think I understand what you're telling me.
Yeah, if you need me to re-clarify, please ask. I know it is a lot.
So I guess the TLDR is Donnie Darko's destiny is to not die, and so he'll have kind of like an ability to do the thing that will let him win this fight if he has any win cons, perhaps.
Yeah, basically the universe kind of directs his path in a way that forces him to do what it needs to do to save the universe. And he has another ability, a passive one, that kind of better explains how this works, which I would get into, but I've been talking for a while and I don't want to like throw too much at once as far as Donnie, but the basic TLDR is that he can create fires, he can flood things, he can lift things with his mind, and he's stronger and smarter than the average human.
I am beginning to understand why these two are Dr. Manhattan opponents. So, Plonk,
Right.
what will Lain do when Donnie begins to choke her with his super strength underwater in the flooded school that the fight is taking place in?
Lain does not typically fight hand to hand. She is not a combat person, so to say. A lot of her abilities come from mental and world control, right? So in terms of equipment, she has a gun, right? She's had a gun in both the anime and the PS1 game. In the anime, she does not use the gun, and in the PS1 game, she only uses the gun on one person, and that's herself. So it's not. I don't think it's really fair to be like she'll just shoot him in the face. Um, but a lot of her abilities are a lot of it's mental and would metaphysical be the correct term for just like world control?
That depends on the world.
Um, so it starts with her convincing somebody else to shoot themselves just by staring at them. Just looking at her is like driving them crazy. People will the way they show it in the show is like they'll have like this like technological like goggles on, and they'll like zoom into the retina and she'll be in there and it'll be driving them crazy. They'll randomly die of heart attacks and stuff like that, just being exposed to her and stuff. um but she has like a lot of her stuff is just like, oh, I read that person's mind. I know what this is happening now. Oh, these people are anonymous, but I'm connected to the Wired, so I can now figure out who they are. Oh, this person's acting crazy. Let's make them die, kind of stuff. She's not gonna come and like deal with water or throw fire at the person. Um, it's a little, it's a little difficult to go over her powers without just like naming the end game stuff. So, which is why I'm kind of stumbling on my words a little bit.
Do we
Um,
want to just rip the band-aid off, give a spoiler warning, and then just like jump in?
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's already confusing on premise. So I feel like dancing around spoilers is just gonna make it
Make it worse.
like
Yeah.
unable to understand what's happening.
Okay, so play. Wow, oh my god, my brain is destroyed from research. Show the image that says system on it.
System.
Play the image that says system.
I will play the image that says system. Look at that.
Uh, da, da, da. This right here is explaining that it's like explaining the terms of the game. There's another image associated with this that I won't make you show. It's explaining the means of the game, and it kind of shows her scale because it clarifies that by firstly the other image that you don't need to put up because it's in Japanese, so you won't be able to read it anyway. The first image talks about how within the system of the game when you're playing, she has records of everything that happens in the past and future. So stuff like precognition or any of that isn't really going to be a an issue for her since she knows everything that's going to happen. And this is later expounded in the anime where she erases herself from existence after having a big mental breakdown and getting berated by another form of herself, which I think she also erases. She thinks to herself like, there's a character named Alice who she's very connected to, and she thinks to herself like, oh, I can just exist at any time and go see her. And so as an adult, one of the last scenes of the show is her seeing Kid Lain and not knowing who Kid Lain is. But her being like, oh, hi, oh, whatever, we just met, fuck it, right? So she's able to erase herself completely from existence. She's able to, that guy I mentioned before that called himself God, she has similar abilities to him, and she was experiencing a reality that she did not enjoy. And so he made that a dream. There is now a new reality, and the one she experienced was just a dream that now has never happened.
That seems very helpful
She
in a fight to
she
the
can
death.
pinpoint. She has made other universes and exists in the Wired exists over an omniverse, and even to our own minds. It explains that when you play this image explains that when you play the game and you learn about Lain, Lain is like the joke I made at the beginning. Lain is literally becoming. We are becoming kind of like a one with that system. meaning that she's reaching. It says that she reaches into the lives of the players, right? So that would put her into like affecting. Is that technically considered out of Versal? Since she's reaching into the real world and seeing
Yes.
Depends,
information
but
as
normally yes.
Yeah.
um she can also pinpoint accuracy. She can affect the whole world. One of my questions when I was researching was, do you need to be connected to the wired in order for her to affect your mind, right? Because in the case of the crossover, you can say everyone's connected, but Donnie is not. Donnie is connected to something else, right? But in the one-shot manga, I believe, um, Lain was able to make every single person on the world love her. She affected every single person's mind. And some people might not be connected to technology like that, like farmers or people who, especially 98, who were like, just like, oh, I don't want a computer or phone, whatever. Even they were still affected by this mental manipulation. And when the character Alice, she was a student who was having relations with a teacher. Um, it was another version of Lane that leaked it, and everyone found out about it, and it was like super embarrassing, whatever. But then when the main Lane caught wind, she erased it from ever happening. So everyone no longer remembered it except for Alice because she wanted Alice to, because she doesn't understand people that much. She wanted to Alice to like know, like, I care about you this much that I changed the whole world for you. But obviously that didn't go well. But she can do it with pinpoint accuracy and affect as many people or as little people as she wants with it.
So you don't need to be connected to the wired to be affected by Lane's mind hacks.
In my opinion, yes.
Okay. I was gonna say, even if
Now,
you needed to, if the wired can reach out to us in the real world and connect us to the wired, wouldn't Donnie also be connected by the wired as soon as he like sees Lane?
I would assume so, but d- there could be something where it's like Donnie's connected to this other thing, which I can't remember the name of. I'm sorry, Zoro. Which could be a passive resistance, or it could be something that would interfere with the wired at the very least.
Yeah.
Which is one interesting thing I was thinking of when thinking about this debate. Uh, let's see. Did I have something for this? Oh, this. Play the very last image I sent you. Play. What is going on with
I
me?
will play. Well, it's a game. Lane's a game, and we're gonna play it. Lane game. The last image you sent me, which is
Correct.
which one is the last one you sent me? Oh, it's that one. It's the one
Well,
with panels.
yes. So in this panel, so when you die, you become part of the Wired, right?
Everyone.
Um, and I believe everyone because there's two people: the guy that shot himself and a woman who jumps off a bridge in the beginning of the story. Both appear to Lane as spirits. And you can see more spirits in here. Um, and so that's becoming part of the Wired is like becoming a ghost, becoming a spirit, and dying and stuff. Um, and it says in this panel that, oh my god, where did my translation? Oh, here it is. That ghosts aren't affected by the laws of the universe. Um, the thing is that if Lane could erase reality and bring people back, then she must still, even though it's saying here that you can, it would be outside of her control to do whatever. The fact that she's able to reset the world and affect these kind of ghosts should show another layer of her power. The guy that considers himself God that she was talking to before, this is never confirmed, but my theory is that he was a guy who died, who became a spirit, and kind of like learned how to control the wired in a way. Because when Lane resets the world, she takes his spirit and puts him and recreates him as a human again. But just according to this panel right here, that shouldn't be possible. So she is able to even do things that are beyond the perception of what even she thought she'd be able to do at the time. And in fact, another quote unquote layer of reality on top of it.
Mm.
So it can reach into spirits. It can reach into the real world. It can reach into like fucking alternate timelines and stuff like that, because the game and the anime are seen as different quote unquote timelines. Uh, the end of the game is Lain killing herself to become part of the network, and she boom, you know what I mean? And in the anime, there's a scene that is on the bridge, and she has the gun, and the spirits are telling her she should do it, and she doesn't do it, showing that it's like a difference in like it's the same location, the same type of events, but a different outcome. But we also know that all the lanes are connected in a way, so even though it's clearly a separate timeline, they are still the same lane. It is very complicated. The show is very complicated. There's hidden official lore in VR chat.
Like the actual VR chat
Uh-huh.
is it? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not
Really?
gonna ask any questions. Okay. You've brought up some very potent sounding abilities, especially the resetting the universe or turning the current universe into a dream. Does Donnie have a response if Lain just turns him into a dream?
All right. Give me a second to just comprehend everything I've just heard. Because now I have to think about how that affects with all the crap I have. So, being turned into a dream. Alright. I think I got it. Alright, so. In order to explain this next part, I have to go over the concept of two things within the Darko films.
You can take this image off screen, by the way.
Oh, I'm
We don't need
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
we don't need the creepy ghost Lane on screen when he talks about this.
And that would be the concepts of the manipulating dead and the manipulated living. And these are kind of like that other, like, thing related to life's path that I was talking about. Alright, so. Let me just pull up my notes, make sure I'm not mincing my words. Alright, so. When a tangential universe is created, one constant thing about it is that everyone who dies within the tangential universe will become what is known as the manipulated dead. And, okay, actually, let me explain it first like this, and then that'll make the rest of this easier. Alright, so, according to the book of the philosophy of time travel, whenever a living receiver is created, they kind of have a natural passive effect on those around them. And those around them will always be manipulated by them in a way that pushes them towards their destiny.
Does that imply that if you aren't near a living receiver, you aren't being pushed towards your destiny?
No, like, so basically, like, say I become a living receiver, right?
Mhm.
My family. Okay, we'll start with the manipulated living. Since this passive effect, my family will start acting in a way around me that encourages me to do my destiny. So that would imply, say, I have a really good relationship with my family, and maybe I don't want to do my role as the living receiver because of family connections. Well, now my family will start acting very hostile with me, break those connections, so that I'd be more encouraged to do what I need to do to save the universe, because now I am no longer restricted by the connection with my family. And everyone is affected by this. Like, anyone around Donnie will be manipulated in a way that forces him to basically stop the primary universe from being destroyed. So if anything, any attempts Lain makes to manipulate or reset and turn the world into a dream, the universe from Donnie, the philosophy of time travel would dictate that the world would manipulate itself and manipulate Donnie into preventing that from actually happening.
So this
One of
is
one of the questions I had with that kind of stuff when I was researching for this was that being a receiver, you essentially this is essentially a 2v1 because there is an outside force trying to make the world stay on the right path in Donnie Darko, right?
Yeah.
There's like something that's passively helping him, and even if you want to be like there's no aid, just Donnie Darko himself would get this aid. So I was always curious how that would interact with her manipulation of reality as well, because there's two opposing forces trying to manipulate reality for a specific outcome.
It would just come down to who can manipulate reality better.
so
Yeah.
Zorro, you were saying that this is the manipulated living that become influenced to influence Donnie to do his destiny?
Yeah. Like, it's not like a thing that Donnie actively does to, like, manipulate. The universe itself is the tangential universe. It's one thing to clarify is that the tangential universe is different from the primary timeline. So, everything in the tangential universe, the people will be manipulated to act in a way that encourages Donnie to do what he needs to do. And then once that happens, the tangential universe ceases to exist, and then the primary universe will continue without, any of the events from the tangential universe transpiring.
Does that mean Lain would be unaffected by this because Lain isn't from a tangential universe?
Well, if she's in the primary universe, then when that happens and the artifact pushes into a tangential universe, by extension, because it's just like a branching path line of the primary universe, everything in the primary universe would exist in the tangential universe. And even if we want to say that she'd be stuck in the primary universe, we've also established that there is a universal constant Lain in every universe. So, by extension of Lain herself, she would naturally appear in any tangential universe that gets spawned.
Okay, so you're saying that there's a Lane's universe is a prime universe, and then the inciting incident of Donnie Darko happens, and now there's a tangential version of Lane's universe, and this tangential Lane universe is where this tangential Lane exists. And this version of Lane is what we will be using for the fight?
In a way, I suppose that is how the physics would work. And by existing in the tangential universe, she would in turn be manipulated, like passively manipulated by the rules of the tangential universe to push Donnie to do whatever it needs to do to prevent the primary universe from being destroyed.
Take a shot every time you say tangential universe, you'll be dead
So
by
would
midnight.
would that
Please don't do that, you will die of alcohol poisoning.
would that mean that this version of Lane will be, if Donnie's destiny is to not die and win this conflict we're making happen, would Lane be influenced by destiny to kind of lose or give up or just leave or something?
Yeah, basically, any attempt from her to try to stop Donnie would be manipulated, and sometimes it's not as directly as, like, influencing Lain to just basically give up. It's like, one example is that, okay, for this I will also bring up the manipulated dead, which is kind of the same thing, but a bit more direct and heavy-handed in how they manipulate things, because anything that dies in the tangential timeline will become known as a manipulated dead, which is basically a ghost that ignores all laws of time and physics. So, in the original movie, there's this figure named Frank, who is a manipulated dead. He's dressed up as a rabbit, and for the most time, he is framed as Donnie Darko's imaginary schizophrenic friend. And he takes his mask off, and there's a bullet hole where his eye should be. And Donnie has no context for that. Near the end of the film, Frank accidentally runs over his girlfriend. And out of rage, Donnie pulls out a gun. By the way, he also has a gun. And he shoots him in the face. And even though that happens near the end of the tangential timeline, Frank being dead, he still turns into a ghost that manipulates him from the start of the tangential timeline. And Frank is the one who directly tells him to do things like, hey, Donnie, go flood the school. And he tells him to flood the school so that school gets canceled for the day. And that gives him the opportunity to walk this girl home, who ends up becoming their girlfriend because he walked him from home and they met. And then the reason why that was set up so that Frank could then kill her near the end of the timeline, removing another personal connection from Donnie, thus giving him nothing left to lose so that he is forced to do his destiny. It's like a Rutenberg domino effect of like, I'll have you do this one thing which will domino into you being forced to do what you need to do.
I feel like
Did
if
you
we,
say Rutenberg when you were talking about
Yeah.
a Rutenberg
Did you say Rutenberg?
Or
Tutenberg.
whatever, like whatever it's called.
Rutenberg, apparently.
I like that more unironically. That sounds way more fun.
Yeah.
I would love a Rutenberg machine.
Sounds like a meal you'd get at a restaurant. I'll get the Rutenberg with a side of fries.
Did I say it wrong? What is it?
It's a Rugelberg.
Goldberg.
Rugelberg. Okay. All right, that's just me being a dumbass. I will wear that cap.
It's a Rutenberg. What do you mean?
All right.
I feel like if we ever do this as a Nebula theater, it would have to be like 40 minutes to properly explain everything.
Yeah.
Well, you just have to explain it better than how we're doing it right now. Can you play? Oh my god! Can you put on the image that starts with airy outlines? I sent it to you not long ago. So this is Ari explains to her. Ari is Godman. He explains to her that her perception of reality is reality, right? So even if she she learns about this other kind of force, whatever she believes is now what currently exists, right? So she can essentially, what I'm saying is she could probably erase this force that's guiding Donnie Darko or changing the world on Donnie Darko as long as she believes like, oh yeah, I could do it better. It's like, have you ever seen the Bleach Thousand-Year Blood War, where Kenpachi is fighting the guy that believes that whatever he believes is now real. So he's like, oh, you're in a vacuum of space, and then they appear in a vacuum of space. Oh, your bones are now cookies and stuff like that. Kenpachi fights him so hard that the guy thinks to himself, damn, I'm losing, and so he loses. That's how I'm picturing this thing with Lain. She's like, oh yeah, you can manipulate reality, but like I can do it better. So now that I believe it, I'm better than you. I can nullify it. Can you play the second image? I mean, I guess we don't need to, but I can just like this is just an image of rewriting reality just to bring back a thing that Lain liked, but we can skip that. Play the last image I just sent you.
He said play twice again.
It happens. The other one. Oh, this is what I was referring to before, that Ari rewrites reality to give her something back that she had lost. There's one more. And this is essentially is explaining that this omnipresent wire that exists and like kind of encapsulates everything, right? Lain can take herself out of it. She can disconnect herself from the wired. So if they're in a battle and the rules of the wired and the rules of this other god being are interfering with her victory, she can disconnect herself from the effects of those things and then give herself like an added edge. She no longer plays by the rules of the Wired or um, whatever the god thing is called there. I don't actually think it has a name in Donnie Darko.
Yeah, it's just kind of like like the philosophy of time travel just kind of explains it as like a science of like this is just how the universe kind of functions on a metaphysical sense. So for simplicity, we can just call it the universal force of Donnie Darko.
The Donnie
I like
Force.
that better.
Yeah, the Darko
Um,
force.
Two forces.
But what I'm saying here is that the world and Donnie Darko will manipulate itself to get Donnie to his thing, to his goal, his conclusion. But Lain can disconnect herself from that kind of force, while still maintaining her powers. So now that this universal force that's helping Donnie now has no information or access to her.
But if it's Lane's new destiny to lose to Donnie, would Lane even choose to disconnect from the destiny if destiny would make it so that she wouldn't do that?
Well, it would
Or
be her and Destiny would be essentially fighting for control of the situation.
and I would also like to add two small arguments on my own for this.
Think of it like narrator versus game part two.
Oh dear. So yeah, first, because I've explained, the manipulation isn't always direct. It can work in very indirect ways, such as like the whole I flood the school so that you form this connection only for me to rip it away at the last second so that I can tear away your connection to this world.
We can
So,
take the image off, sure.
yeah. So one way is that she might not even realize she is being manipulated because she'll do this one thing, and then it just turns out it just dominoes into something later before she realizes. So that, but even when she disconnects and realizes it, she might have already just set things into motion. Second, does the wire that gives her the source of her powers, right?
Well, she is the Wired. The Wired is this big structure, and her connection to it is what gave her her powers and her like her form, essentially.
Yeah.
Because I think I brought up earlier that she was information floating in the Wired before she was given form. But then she wasn't when she got a real body, she wasn't necessarily getting powered from the Wired itself, but she still maintained everything.
All right. So but without the wire or anything, she's just biologically she's a person when disconnected, right?
Yeah.
So if it comes down to her disconnecting and then I'm influenced by the wire and destiny, I will now beat you in a straight up fight. Living receivers are naturally stronger and more durable than regular people. So if she disconnects herself from her supernatural state to avoid that, Donnie is still physically stronger than her, has a gun, and can just physically like swipe you with an axe or set you on fire or lift you with telekinesis and throw you through time.
What's so funny is that I'm right now picturing Donnie Darko beating the shit out of an 11-year-old girl after the fucking omnipotent powers are gone. It's just like, all right, let's go.
It's like a really fucked up Batman versus Iron Man ending.
No more
Or it's
suits,
like-
Lane.
Yeah,
just you to
just
me,
just-
man to man.
Bring.
Um,
You don't have the powers on your side. Finally, I can beat up an 11-year-old.
Considering
would-
Donnie
would-
is like a very troubled person,
Bring me Peppa
he,
Pig.
he would actually be passionate about like, okay, let time to fuck her up. Just picks him up with telekinesis, slams him on the ground a couple of times, like Hulk.
Wait, Donnie has
Loki
telekinesis?
style. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
able to like rip off a jet engine off of a plane.
Oh
and
yeah.
throw it.
I thought
You didn't
he
really
when you
mention
said
that
that
before.
I thought he just did that with like his muscles. I didn't realize that was a telekinesis thing. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Why would
uh,
Lane disconnecting herself from Destiny disconnect herself from the Universal Wire? I thought those sound like two different things to me.
It's more so to say that if there is a structure that is can make like for her sake, I believe the context of that was information based. By disconnecting herself, the wire can no longer like keep track of her, right? Um, so I'm saying that if there is this kind of structure that is containing her to anything, she's able, even something as powerful, and I'd argue the Wired is more powerful than the structure in Donnie Darko. If she learns about it, I feel like there's no reason she shouldn't be able to disconnect from something very similar to what's holding her together in her current reality.
I do have a question that I think may be important. Destiny in Donnie Darko seems to control everything in its respective tangential or real universe. But if the Wired is a cosmological structure that exists outside of the universes, then would Destiny apply to the Wired? Because if Lain is the Wired, then maybe Destiny wouldn't even affect Lain?
See, I think that's also a very big possibility. If you were to take it at face value, Donnie Darko is like the tiny man sitting in the corner, and Lane is Lane is the thing that's controlling reality, right? I'm gonna manipulate people to act for me, like the what is it called in Donnie Darko? Jesus fucking like the god thing in Donnie Darko does manipulates people to act a certain way to get to a certain result,
Destiny?
makes people do certain things. Lane just does that herself. Whereas Donnie doesn't do that himself, but has something that does it for him because of his role in reality, right? Overall, I think Lane. Do we want to talk about AP SP stuff? I don't
I
know if it really
guess.
matters here.
Is there anything?
I mean, I
Uh,
do have a neat speed feat
do
actually.
it.
So in the second film, and technically this isn't a Donnie feat, but it's from another living receiver. But since living receivers are also given like physically, increased physical capabilities, I think it's safe to assume that the buff that this receiver got would also apply to Donnie, since they're both living receivers, thus would both be passively affected by this. So in the second film, the living receiver in that tangential timeline is a man known as Iraq Jack. Uh, yeah. You can.
Hell of a name! Oh my god.
Yeah. He's a dirty
Is he-
hobo.
Is he Iraq Chuck and does he wear all black by chance?
No. He wears camo because he was from Project Desert Storm and came back, and people thought he was crazy, so they call him Old Iraq Jack. It is a really bad sequel.
Hmm.
But anyway, the kind of inciting artifact for this tangential timeline is a meteor. And, you know, he is manipulated at the start of the tangential timeline by a living dead to just basically run away. And the meteor itself had already started falling out of orbit. So he had enough reaction speed to react to the meteor about to crush him on the windmill, get off the windmill, and make it out without being injured. Which would put him, and since that meteor falling from orbit would have at minimum like 11.2 kilometers per second, or 25,054 miles per hour, which is like a third of the speed of light. Not light speed, but like if you times it by 3, it would be light speed reactions.
You said 25,000 miles per hour?
Yeah,
That does-
25,000. So so physically they can react to things.
Can you bring up the image I just
I
made?
don't think that's a third the speed of light.
Yeah.
That math
know,
doesn't
what-
sound correct to me.
The math
What-
isn't mathing.
Wait, what is the speed of light calced at? I might have mathed wrong.
Well, I just
So
Googled translated miles per hour to light, and it says it's like not. It's like a 10,000th the speed of
Yeah.
light.
All right, I am not a big number cruncher, so take all of my. Donnie Darko is not calced well. It's just there. He has a meteor dodging feat. Do with that as you will.
all right, so this image, Lain can control electromagnetic waves and light. Part of her universal control, she can shoot out and do a bunch of stuff with it, make pictures, whatever. But just the fact that she exists outside of time and space and can just go anywhere at any point in time ever would just put her at infinite anyway. So
Also, I didn't know she had
that's
drip.
fine.
Like this looks cool. I thought
Yeah.
from
Bro,
what I heard, I
her-
thought they're just wearing like normal clothes we would wear. This looks cool.
Yeah, this is from the video game specifically. She's dripped out in the video game.
Yeah.
The most you really see in the anime is typical clothes, and then she has this like onesie because she's an 11-year-old child going through traumatic bullshit. Um, but yeah, in the PS1 game, she got some drip.
Well, if we're going off the logic of like exists outside of time for scaling, the manipulated dead also have that factor to them. So they would be, and since they're the ones directly influencing and manipulating the living receiver, Donnie would also kind of have, by extension, would match that by being manipulated by them.
Wait, don't the living
I don't
dead
think-
exist outside the timeline because they exist like in the afterlife with just like a different timeline?
No, like Frank from the first film dies at the end of the film. But we see his ghost at the start of the film.
Yes.
So the living dead exists in a separate time, even though he doesn't die until the end of the film. So the living
doesn't-
dead exists in whatever time they are, as long as they die sometime in the tangential timeline.
I don't think that's the same thing as existing everywhere all at once.
Yeah, I'm not
bet
sure
that-
this is how infinite speed works.
I thought you were saying like existing in all of time all at once, because they would also exist in any part of time.
we also
Well, for
the four of
her-
us also exist in time.
For her, it's that she can be like, "Oh, I want to go visit Alice. Right now, I'm at a time where she's an infant. I want to see her as an adult. Though, boom, she's an adult. Let's go." It's kind of like that's her more of her control. She could just kind of like, "I'm here in this time now."
Can the living
Well-
dead like time travel?
Well, yes, because again, the living dead, Frank dies at the end of the film. But we see him as a manipulated dead ghost before he dies. So his living self and his dead self are existing at the same time in the tangential timeline. And the ghost has traveled back in time to manipulate Donnie at the beginning of the tangential timeline. So they can exist any part within the tangential timeline they need to in order to do their manipulations.
So that to me, that was more so just the deity thing. Fuck, because it's either the deity thing is talking through him, or that it's not the same dude at all.
What
I don't know. I don't want to. It's already passed by. I don't want to get like too much into the more like stuff. I understand what you're saying.
My head
Yeah.
hurty.
It's what, Saul?
Hurting. This is so much info.
I'm trying to explain this as simply as I can. But yeah, like
To be fair, these are very complex like series to delve into, so I don't blame anyone for being like, ah.
Yeah. I mean, I have an even more complex example if you want it.
Oh God, I feel like
I think we're okay.
I feel like Manchester Black when Superboy overloads his mind. He's like,
Because
"Fuck."
in the second film, there is Donnie Darko's sister, Samantha Darko. There are two timelines in that film. Because in the first film, Samantha dies too early to become a manipulated dead. So then Connie, her friend, gets sent back in time, takes her place and dies, so that Samantha can be killed in the correct way for the manipulated dead at the end of the film, but we see her as a manipulated dead in the original tangential timeline, if influencing things in both timelines, even though she doesn't even die in that timeline.
I will also mention that I don't think that the ghost going back in time to tell Donnie Darko things means that Donnie Darko can move at those speeds. Um, and to kind of, I feel like it might be a little no limitsy to say that he could based on that fact. Um, but I'll leave it there because I feel I can see Sherm's struggling right now, and Saul needs to sleep.
Yeah, I don't know. If you're claiming she can move a fast pace on existing anywhere at once, I just don't see how that excludes it, since he
So
also has beings that do that and manipulate him into actions.
Has he ever like fought a ghost and like won?
I mean, he's tried to stab a ghost, but the ghost's like, no, stop that. You're doing what I want you to do.
So I get like my even if ghosts are infinite speed, I don't know if there's any valid scaling chain that would get Donnie there.
I'm not exactly arguing that like Donnie, like, if the ghosts can match her at her speed, then they would be able to at least have equal speed priority in manipulating Dante to do what he. I mean, not where did Dante come from?
if
Donnie.
Dante comes in here, they're both fucked. Let's just say that.
Yeah. That I can we just end the debate there? I feel like that is the least painful ending to this debate.
I mean,
This-
I've shown
this-
all my images.
This debate is painful enough.
I will say I think
Yeah.
I've been keeping track of everything. I do think I've understood basically the main point everyone's been trying to say so far. The thing that I'm trying to parse out, which I can't quite figure out, is how do either of them actually like win?
Yeah.
Like, can they even like, let's say like we take Destiny out of the situation, and like just like Goku comes up and punches them. Do like will they die? Can they stay dead?
I I would have to, because I had this theory when I was talking to the person that was translating for a Donnie Darko. I think that Lain just being like, "Oh, Manhattan him, goodbye," and "Oh, I'm gonna make a new universe that doesn't follow your laws," is like very just like things she has done before. She even made the guy that called himself God in a previous world, in this new world, just a dude because why not? So she has like overridden powerful people who were altering the universe before. And like this God guy was literally the reason cell phones, computers, and all this exist because he manipulated reality for it to happen. So I think that's Lane's best gimme in this situation. I did think, how would you kill Lane? And the best I can come up with is if one, you somehow override, or like maybe you exist in a structure that like is bigger than the Wired, which you would really have to get into the nitty gritty about how big and how strong each of those structures were. Maybe you can override her control itself. I don't think that's going to happen here. Or you are a blatant time traveler and you somehow figure out where, if you were to go back in time, this is crazy. This would never happen. If you were to go back in time and stop cell phones and electronics and everything that connected the world in its entirety from ever existing, then Lain would have no way or no time in history to make her physical body out of the data, and she would never exist in the first place, a la Superboy Prime versus Sentry. But I just don't think Donnie has the means or the time travel capabilities to pull that off.
Don't
Funny
the
you say
ghosts in
that.
Donnie Darko like time travel to make things happen?
Yeah.
So Donnie Darko's time travel, in the movie, I have not seen the supplementary material. He went back into his body from his previous time. He would have to go far, far back into the past in order to stop all that stuff from ever happening, like for well before he was born, to the person who had the first concepts of these ideas.
That would probably butterfly effect Donnie into not existing anymore.
Well, here's the funny thing about that. Donnie does have blatant abilities to open portals through time. And the inciting incident in the first film is a jet engine being launched into the tangential timeline and landing in his house. Which we later find out is because Donnie ripped the engine off of the plane and opened a time portal and chucked it through there. And in the second film, we see more blatant examples of like the manipulated dead and Iraq Jack just straight up opening a portal and jumping through to get back to their desired period in time. So if Lain can be stopped by going back in time and preventing the wire from being formed, and since, the manipulated dead can go back in time to manipulate the living transceiver into doing what they need to do to seize their destiny, which in this case would be stopping Lain, then they could just manipulate events so that the living transceiver creates a time portal, goes back in time, and prevents Lain from even being existed.
Wait, but if the Wired is a thing that pre-exists all of this, and the Wired also manipulated things to make the internet and phones exist, wouldn't the Wired itself be fighting with the ghosts to make it so the internet exists?
I'm not sure. I'm
Essentially,
just going.
it would probably be like the other lanes trying to stop it as well.
Yeah,
But it's also a fact of like the Wired always exists. What you would be trying to stop is Lane from ever becoming nothing but like a giant web of information into her own being. They called ego in the show, where like when she was given life, she was given ego. Um, but it's a little complicated to understand because the Lane can also kind of is omnipresent, can exist at any time. We just never see her exist at a time before she existed, so it's 100% theoretical on my side. It was just a thought I had.
yeah.
We
But,
don't know if Lane could is not able, because technically since she does exist, she should be able to go to that time period, but we just never see it.
Yeah, and I will say that in both cases of us seeing a living transceiver, they have only died in their films because they choose to die. So Donnie had his memories and could have left to avoid being killed at the end of his film. But he just chose not to.
Well, I believe he chose not to because it was like the only way that things would be on the right path, right? Like it was his destiny to do so? Or am I crazy?
They frame it like that, but in the second film, living transceiver kind of transferred roles to Connie at one point. She's able to get the powers of the living receiver, and at the end of the film, she's still alive. So it is possible for living receivers to not need to die in order to seize their destiny. Donnie and Iraq Jack just chose to do it.
This has ended up being a crazier debate than I think anyone signed up for.
Yeah.
So even I feel like I myself am getting a little lost in the sauce right now, just trying to figure out how the physics of each world kind of manipulates. So if I say things and I'm not understanding Donnie Darko, I apologize. I had a lot of time to prepare for this, and I still don't know half of the things I'm saying out of my mouth.
Who are you gonna say? Who are you gonna say wins the debate? The handsome man showing his face fresh out of a A&F half-hour shift, or a guy that's lost in this? I have him. He's lost in the sauce, bro. I don't know what he's gonna do when I have him.
I don't
I'm
know,
not gonna-
Climb.
okay.
You holding the other debater as hostage doesn't imply a level of confidence of a winner. To me.
Yeah, I will say, if remove all the time bullshit, who's gonna win? An 11-year-old girl or a guy with telekinesis and an axe and a gun?
I just
She has a gun.
I don't even know if I'm going to vote for anyone in the first place. I might say fuck you and DNF.
Oh, I should also say,
Honestly, that is a fair
she
vote.
she dies at the end of the first game, and it still exists as a spirit. And spirits can and have interacted with the real world before, including the god guy that she fucks over. Should we do final arguments?
I would suppose so. Trop, if you're
I-
listening, you can throw up the poll. Do we want to just do Lain versus Donnie, or do we want like a stalemate option?
I feel like stalemate is copping out. Let's
Alright.
do Lain
Yeah.
versus Donnie.
Let's get
Yeah,
Lain
'cause
versus
It's very
otherwise-
Donnie up in
possible
here,
it
Trop.
could end in a stalemate, but
Yeah, otherwise,
Um,
like, the most realistic outcome is that, Donnie's universe and then Lane's kind of like purpose would coincide and they'd work together to stop whatever's threatening
Well,
things.
Trop ended the
but
poll.
in a Oh,
Thank you,
a
Trump.
tie.
he ended already? It's over already?
Yeah, he ended
Yeah.
the poll and no one had a chance to vote, so
Thank
right
you
now
for
we
guys.
have one tie vote.
Thank you for guys
So,
coming out to
okay.
Nebula versus Colt. It has been a fun time. Make sure you check out the update video,
So-
and we're done here, right?
We'll,
So
we'll,
my
we'll have
final
a second
argument-
DLC poll.
Lane
As you have
stopped the vote.
seen, Trop was just manipulated by the forces of fate to stop the pull to prevent Donnie from losing in that timeline. So as you can see, Donnie's universe exceeds reality itself, and I don't even know what I'm saying right now.
Right, don't say any more complex stuff because my brain is genuinely starting to hurt.
All
How
right,
much
all
I've been
right.
trying
You
to
don't want-
process.
You don't want complex. I got you. I explained a very theoretical, long-winded way that Donnie could win that I thought of because I love both these things and I would love to see them interact. Lain needs to think that she is better than Donnie, or needs to just wake up and be like, that universe or didn't exist, or make the universe explode, or have the Wired reach into the real world so she can learn everything about Donnie Darko. She has a million ways to end this fight before Donnie could do anything, even with his universal helpers. Whereas Donnie has to follow complex things in order to even theoretically get a win off against Lain. That's my final argument.
So I do not think I am lost in the sauce. I think I have.
Did Zoro
wait.
give his final argument?
I was giving a
Zora
joke
did not,
final-
yeah.
Oh, I thought that
was a
was
joke
Zora's
final
final
argument.
argument. My bad. Hey, we've never established joke or final arguments as a thing before. I think you're just trying to cheat to get some more time to argue for yourself. But I'll let it
No,
slide.
no. That was just a joke. But actual final arguments is that this is a very complex debate. I could see this going either way, but as I understand things,
Slime's dead.
I understand that
my
Prime is
partner's
dead.
coming home. I turned off my camera. Sorry.
Oh, all right. But yeah, as I was saying, as I understand things, if these universal forces are roughly equal, which it seems like they both have relative influence, in a straight up brawl fight, removing all that, Donnie just has a lot more supernatural abilities and physical strength to take a one-on-one confrontation. And if we add in the universal elements, it doesn't matter if Lain has like a million ways to end the fight, because of the way the Donnie Darko universal force works, as long as there is one possibility for him to win, which, Prime himself has given a theoretical way for Donnie to win, then the forces would manipulate Donnie into doing the exact action he would need to do that. So I believe that would be the case, and Donnie, as long as he gets one shot, which I believe he does, will win this.
So I do not believe that I am lost in the sauce. I have emerged from the sauce and can see it and comprehend it and understand it. So from everything I've heard here today, if we assume that the place this fight takes place in is a world that Lain exists in that became a tangential universe, that would mean that Donnie starts the fight off with a very big advantage because Lain would be subject to destiny, I don't think there's a lot of implication that Lain would start off assuming they are not a part of Destiny, and thus they would be affected by Destiny at the start of the fight, which means they would never make the decision to disconnect from Destiny. And Donnie seems to have a lot of advantages just by having more relevant physical material powers like fire, water, super strength, telekinesis. All very good powers. But we never really established Donnie as having comprehensive like mind insanity resistance. So I don't think there's also anything saying like Donnie wouldn't be driven insane by Lain, especially if Donnie like sees behind the curtain and kind of understands a little bit more about what Lain is. That I feel like that would kind of fast track him to being affected by Lain's insanity induction. But even beyond all that, we say Lain, via being a product of destiny, will lose to Donnie and die. Now, Donnie has killed one Lain, but now we still have the rest of the Lanes in the Omniverse, as well as the ghost of Lain in this current verse. At which point, I think they just turn Donnie and his entire tangent timeline into a dream. And if the tangent timeline and Destiny's whole goal is to get rid of the tangent timeline, then it might just let it slide just so Lain can turn the whole tangent timeline into a dream anyway. And even if Donnie goes back in time and retcons Lain from existing in the fictional world, the Wired has connected to us in the real world, which I do not believe a fictional character can retcon the real world, and thus even if the fictional world was retconned, the four of us and the audience and everyone else would still know of Lain, and there would still be an existing Lain. So I think that Donnie has a lot of advantages, but fundamentally doesn't have a reasonable win con like Lain does, and I will give my vote to Lain.
I like that explanation.
Oh, thank you.
I did. Sorry, I'm laughing because I saw Zoro's message and I really thought about picking this up again.
What was Zoro's message?
Sherp's in there. Sure, he said Sherp's getting lost in the sauce again.
You were just going on for a while, so I'm like,
I'm not lost in the sauce. I know the sauce is my backyard. I understand it.
I'm in the sauce and I have directions.
I have found myself in the sauce.
I was about to ask, is the sauce in the room with you right now? But it is. So, all right, so.
Yeah. Fucking hell. So from what I heard, I don't know. I don't even know what I fucking hear today. It's an average 11-year-old versus superpowered individual who is like the time avatar or whatever, and like would clearly beat Lain in a 1v1. However, Lain would probably have to willingly disconnect themselves, because I don't know if the one thing I really question is the fundamental forces of both universes and how comparable they are to each other. But then I also heard one of them can reach into the real world and has some weird reality over fiction arguments at that point, which becomes like, yeah, one of these being like an outerverse or reach thingy makes it a lot more complex. One thing we didn't really talk about was speed, funny enough. Like, if you take the finite ends, it's like what, like light speed versus like the
Mach 30 was what I found out from translating 25,000 miles per hour.
Slower than Subaru.
You leave Subaru out of this. And one of them having a very good argument for being immeasurable to infinite to all that, and one of them, sorry Zoro, you did not really convince me at all. I think Donnie can win, but I think it takes a lot of setup at the end of the day. While this just becomes, oh, my fundamental force is a lot better than yours. I'm just going to remake the universe so the fundamental force never exists, right? I think that's just what it comes down. GG. It might take a moment, but GG. Yeah, so my vote is going to Lain.
I will.
That's fair.
Trop, if you
That means
can,
Prime's won!
if you can end the poll, Trop.
Is this the first cast I won?
You lost to me on... wait. What are we debating on here?
On the Nebula Theater versus Court, I believe that is true. I don't remember if I'm winning anything.
You fucking dick.
So, what did the audience vote? I'm curious.
Trop has, I guess, they voted Lain 67%, Donnie 33%.
All right, that's fair.
9 votes, so 6-3.
I'm curious who Ganondorf voted for. I feel like his opinion holds a lot of weight.
Ganondorf, throw us $20. Let us know who you voted. I'm kidding.
Yeah, there's just... I realized the perfect counter argument against myself during the middle of the cast. Because the only reason the living receiver exists is to get rid of the tangential universe. So there is literally no reason why it would even try to stop Lain if you tried to erase it. Like, Lain just wins.
So, I feel like the point of the Nebula Theater versus Court is to give the members a chance for them to see us discuss a matchup they like in depth and also kind of understand it. So we've talked a lot about the debate, but also, like, is that the appeal of this matchup? Is the appeal just, like, talking about these two in general? Because I'm not really sure, like, what the interactions actually look like if Donnie has all these, like, telekinesis and fire, and Lain just kind of makes people lose their mind.
So
it's the psychological aspects more than anything.
From what I'm understanding is, like, both Donnie and Lane's arc are less about what they can do and more finding out things about themselves and then realizing who they are and then acting with that power. So I would see, if we did this as an episode, it'd be more of an unconventional fight where it's more about just, like, Donnie being manipulated, doing shit, Lain trying to figure out what's happening, and then at the end, both of them just kind of having an understanding of themselves before stopping the world from ending.
Yeah, for part of the big appeal of the characters is like first of all, I want to say I was looking for this. Mr. Red 14 was the one that put this in the submitted this debate. So hopefully you watch it and like it. Part of the beauty of both characters is like being conformed to this thing that they inevitably go up against, right? And that at the very end, both of them, I mean, Donnie was in a more literal way. He kind of just lets himself just get killed, right? At the end of the movie. And Lane's solution to her problem was to erase herself as well, which has both of them carry like this kind of really sad like moments to them, especially after the facts. That I think a lot of people find comparable, at least people who know these media, because let's be real, I feel like these are pretty niche.
Yeah.
So a lot of it is like their journey, their perspectives and mentalities, and their final essential sacrifice is why they're tied together a lot.
Yeah, like, I've heard Donnie Darko described as like a horror film, but when I watched it, it plays more like a psychological thriller more than anything else.
They're both really sad.
Yeah.
The character comparison certainly makes a lot of sense. I'm just not really sure what direction we would go with it.
as an animation, like, because
Yeah.
it can. There is a point of like too esoteric, right? Like with these fundamental forces and stuff, you can't show them having a battle in like some sort of cosmic space thingy, you know?
Yeah,
It'll-
definitely.
I don't want to go into it. I do, and maybe I'll share this in a doc later and type something up. But I do have ways I've thought of to make it work in a fight animation. But first we need to do Saul versus Edgeworth, so we can write a fight that's a lot of dialogue first and spend all the budget on dialogue, and then we can do it.
Yay!
Yay.
That'll make me happy.
Yeah, it would definitely be more of a story-driven animation with maybe a little fighting near the end rather than like, you know, this big bombastic like timeline splitting action thing. Like I could definitely see it being a really neat unconventional one, but who Plime since we two are the most familiar of these two, we'd really have to just like one of us would have to watch and engage with both of these deeply just so that we kind of know exactly what we're getting into, just so we know we're not stepping on anything. Like it definitely take a lot of effort, but it is doable.
Maybe I'll quit as the research lead so I don't have to look at these two. I'd have to like.
Damn.
I'd also have to intimately understand these two, and it's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
Look, all I have to say is watch Donnie Darko 2, or, you know, it's just like S Darko, because it's Samantha Darko, and that would be a fair response of, like, I quit.
Well,
I'm surprised Zora didn't quit researching.
I watched the movie, and I'm like, what the frick did I just watch? 'Cause, like,
not to shit, by the way, not to shit on the series, because Donnie Darko is legitimately an amazing film. This is
Yeah,
specifically
like-
about the second film, yeah.
no, like, I kind of view it in the same way as, like, Blaze Blue. Like, I love Blaze Blue. I freaking hate Blaze Blue lore, and I'm trying to understand it. Like, Donnie Darko, the first film was pretty neat. I just wish that I didn't start with the base film and started the director's cut. Because, like, again, they kept crucial information out of the base film, crucial to understanding what the heck was going on, which just makes watching the initial base film without the director's cut just hard to understand. But, like, I definitely see the appeal, despite the crappy sequel. And I really think this would make a really cool unconventional fight.
well,
God have mercy for whoever we put for researching this.
That'll be you,
I'd do
Zora.
it in a heartbeat.
That'll be you too.
Fair enough. We're already knee deep in. Might as well go all in.
for those in the audience, if you are also extremely brain addled from the complexity and also want to quit and desire something simple, then tune in on August 27th, where we'll be talking about Sonic versus Goku. Yeah, I feel like you can't get much more straightforward than that one, as I kind of jump from this to that.
Yeah, that
Uh,
sounds like a great palate cleanser, actually.
So that'll be happening
that,
on exactly 2 weeks, Thursday 27th. And in a couple of days from now, on Tuesday the 18th, we'll be returning with our normal Nebula Theater cast for what character will we be talking about? Ryu from Street Fighter. Who should Ryu fight? And Planf, I believe this will also be the cast where we'll be talking about the Kane Tenna fan battle and the Aang Traveler death battle.
Yeah, King Tenna fan battle, the death battle, and there was another one that Sherman was talking about that I watched. Oh, it was the Built Cipher versus Timekeeper.
Ah,
I think
yeah,
it is.
yeah.
Was the other one.
Okay.
There might have been one more, but I can't remember. I'll make a list, but I think those were the main three. And then instead of a spotlight, I'm going to show you guys in the audience one of my favorite animations done in the versus space, and we're going to do some indie game matchup discussions in the middle of it to tie it back to our channel's theming.
That sounds like a great time to me. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you, Mr. Red, for being a member. This was a very, very complex matchup to talk about, but I at least appreciate the fact that I'm a little more cultured than I was 2 hours ago. These do seem like very good series to watch if you're not doing it from a power scaling perspective. And hey, if you want to join our Discord, link in the description. If you want to be a member, there's a button on the screen. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you, Mr. Dragmeyer, for the $20. And unless there's anything else to say, we'll see y'all in the next one.